Hey guys, it's Eric with the Miller Park Man, where we're throwing strikes and getting likes, hitting dingers, and getting listeners. We're back again with another podcast. We have a special guest today. Before we talk to our special guest, you guys know him, Barrel Banter co-host David Go, former minor collegiate baseball player, pitcher, decided to hang up his cleats and just hop on to covering Brewers and everything like that. How are you, David?
I'm doing pretty well. Early January always is a little bit of time to settle back in. So kind of in that transition phase, I guess, but I'm doing well.
I hear that. It's kind of that like, okay, well, we're done with all the excitement of Christmas and the New Year's and everything like that, and it's just kind of getting back to the regular grind of it, especially when you're talking baseball, because now we're kind of in that position where it's the precursor to everything, and we're waiting on moves, and we're anxiously scrolling Twitter to see if we get just something.
Yeah, the Brewers had made a lot of like kind of small moves early in the offseason. I would say the Woodruff non-tender, of course, was the big one. But otherwise, like since maybe early December, they haven't really done anything. So if you're a Dodgers fan, you're satisfied. If you're a fan of a number of other teams, you're pretty satisfied with how it's gone so far. But for the Brewers, I feel like they've just done a lot of random things, but they haven't really done anything in a while.
My quote and my saying on it is the Brewers are doing Brewers things. Getting relievers, signing guys to minor league deals. And I've said this in years past, and I think you could probably agree. We've had some slew of random players that were once good at one time, and we signed them to a minor league deal, hoping to catch that lightning in a bottle. Last year it was Luke Voigt and, oh my gosh, who was the outfielder? The guy from the Reds. Do you remember? It's okay if you don't. It's
Not
fine.
Wink. You mean Winker or someone else?
No, there was somebody else that we signed that was like a splash.
Naquin, Tyler Naquin.
Naquin, thank you. And we were both talking about him, and we're like, oh yeah, it'd be really cool if
Right.
he turns out to form. And now here we are.
Yeah. Occasionally
They were
it'll
off the
happen.
roster quick.
Yeah.
Well, they brought Giovanni Gallardo back. They brought Jabba Chamberlain in a couple years ago. I mean, they've tried. Dontrell Willis, I think, was one of them. All random flash in the pan type of like, oh, let's catch that lightning in a bottle. I don't know. Those moves are always tough for me to swallow because it's like, oh yeah, cool, but
does it really move the needle? Not really.
No.
Yeah.
So, that being said, you cover, and I'm gonna give you another shout out. I gave you a shout out yesterday, but you cover Brewers moves for Brewers Fanatic, which is a website I'm associated with as well on my podcast. And you've been doing some good videos there. I wanted to publicly put that out so everybody knows where to check out, and keep swinging, man. You're doing, that's my buddy Dom says that, but keep on swinging. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, over at brewerfanatic.com, if you go to the video section, it's pretty heavily populated with just me talking. So if you're into that sort of thing for some reason, you can go there.
And they changed up the background. David normally has a pretty white background. Looks like he might be rocking a Shure mic. I don't know if that's a Shure mic or not, but
it not quite off brand.
Me too.
We're not quite there yet. But we got the old Sports Illustrated prints from the Milwaukee Braves.
That's amazing. Are you a big collector? I never asked this, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I would say average. I'm not huge into collecting. I have probably 2,000 baseball cards or something. I was big into baseball cards when I was younger, big into autographs in like middle and high school. But since then, like I'll pick up things from time to time, but not a big collector.
I am actually condensing. And I got rid of a lot of the stuff. If you look at that shelf back there, it's quite condensed from what it was. I've got a stack that's on the internet right now, and it's one of those things with time. You're like, they're just collecting dust. They don't serve any real purpose. So I get it. I mean, that's kind of the way I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, and even, like, today, I had a small stack of baseball cards. My mom will buy me, like, 2 packs of baseball cards just for Christmas, just for the nostalgia of it, and it's like, "Oh, man, gotta put them away." Take some time, and o obviously, like, that's it's fun to look through them and everything, but it's just
Nostalgia.
different. Yeah, it's different when you're an adult and,
Nostalgia.
but, yeah, I enjoy it a little bit, but I don't think I'll ever get big into collecting, like some people are.
And it's funny because I shot a doc a while back, and I said to myself, I'm like, God, I would love to. And then I'm like, no, I wouldn't, because it just ties up so much money and time and thought process, and just isn't there, man. There's different phases of fandom. You can be a diehard fan that is analytical brained like yourself, or you could be, and also podcast, because we both do that. You can wear everything Brewers, and every outfit you wear is Brewers. That used to be me. I got a little bit off that, but I mean, there's just so many different versions and avenues to take. So that's what I love about baseball, man. You can be a fan in any level. You don't always have to support the same team. You mentioned the Dodgers in the beginning when you talked about your videos, or the trade moves. What do you feel right now about the Dodgers? Just curiosity question.
I'm actually more intrigued than anything else because this is like this is the biggest super team that we've seen, for sure in the modern era, or like maybe not modern era, but like in recent years, we haven't seen a team like this. Like they on paper could win like 110, 115 games, challenge like the 98 Yankees, the 0-1 Mariners for that regular season win record. But also like it usually doesn't work out this way in baseball where everything goes to plan. I mean, they dropped 325 million on Yamamoto, and I think he's going to be good, but he's also never thrown a big league pitch. Otani's like one of the best hitters in baseball, but he's not pitching this year. So theoretically, they should be great. Theoretically, they should win the World Series, but I'm kind of more interested than anything else, like to see if they actually win. Because the way that baseball's set up, you can't really like. It's not like every dollar you spend has an equal correlation with winning.
Right.
So I'm more interested to see how everything works out with them. How many games are they going to win? I'm pretty confident they're going to be the best team in the National League record wise, but more so like when they get to the playoffs, are they going to be the team that we expect them to be? And I'm not certain about that. So I'm kind of interested to see it if they do. I'm a big fan of storylines. I'm not like I do like things being more even, but also I'm in it for the storyline. So if like to me it's more entertaining when there's one clear favorite and one big market team that spends a lot, all the superstars, and then they lose to the 84 win Diamondbacks. Like that's interesting, and so that's why I would say more than anything I'm interested to see what it is, more so than like upset or worried if the Dodgers beat the Brewers, because they spent 3 times more on payroll. That's just kind of how baseball works, and it's annoying at times. But I am, as a baseball fan, kind of excited to see how it works out.
I think I will. I think I'll tune into more Dodgers games. I mean, I think I'll be more apt to buy tickets to see the Dodgers play, because you're seeing something superstar wise on a different level than we've seen, like you said, in this era at least. And who doesn't want to go see the best in baseball?
Hmm.
I
Yeah, and
mean,
you also want to see if your team can beat the best in baseball. So when they've got like the three best hitters in baseball, 3 of the 4 best hitters in baseball, and then they've got Yamamoto, who's got a ton of intrigue coming over from Japan, and Otani is a transcendent superstar. So like that's yeah, it's interesting, and if they want to do the things with the deferrals, they can. That's up to them. I'm not so picky about everything like some fans are.
right, right. And I think I feel that you're right on there, the hair there. That's kind of the vein that I think in. So one of the big topics I wanted to talk about with you was the rule changes, and I'm always a fan of your mindset and how you think about things. The rule changes and fine tuning of what we already put into play last year. So with that being said, like, how do you before we talk about the new stuff and what they've tweaked, how do you feel that the rules affected the game in your personal opinion, how you view baseball and how you watch baseball?
I thought they were really overwhelmingly positive. The one thing you could point to maybe that would be like the biggest drawback is the injury linked with injuries with pitchers. Now, I don't think that that link was particularly strong. We've had a lot of arm injuries over the past 5 or 10 years in general, so I don't think that this necessarily accelerated it that much. Maybe a little bit, but otherwise, I would say it was extremely positive. The game times were down by about a half hour. Even for me, like I enjoy watching baseball. Probably, it's funny for me to admit this because everyone says I like baseball more than anyone else they know. I mean, there definitely are other people that enjoy watching baseball more than I do, but I found it a lot easier to watch an entire game, to go to the ballpark, and I felt like the pace was much crisper. Like you weren't sitting there waiting for the next play. There wasn't enough time to go to and look down at your phone between every pitch, like there was sometimes in previous years. And you were just into the game a lot more, and I noticed that with other fans. It was refreshing. I like the stolen bases being up. I definitely like the shift restrictions. I hate the ground ball that's hit up the middle that would get fielded every time. To me, the shift restrictions were good, and the hard ground balls we get through more often because they weren't playing in the outfield. So really, I would say it was overwhelmingly positive in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly I feel that way too. The one bugging concern is the injuries and stuff like that. I think that's going to have more of effect on the older players now than the young guys. You know what I mean? Because the young guys are kind of being raised on this. You know, guys like Jackson Churio coming up, he's being already playing this game and has been playing it because they've been playing it in the minors for 2 years, I think, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
No,
varying levels, but yeah, a
yeah,
couple of
and,
years.
and the rules vary from level to level, which I found out not
That
about
I'm not a
before.
huge fan of.
It's weird. It's weird. Okay, so let's talk about it here. This is from CBS. No, I'm sorry, USA Today. It says the time between pitches with runners on base is now 18 seconds down from 20. Um, I mean, it's a tweak. Does it make, does 2 second, I guess, why would you tweak it to that? You know what I mean?
I think I think this is MLB being proactive. So in that same article, it says pitchers began their deliveries with an average of 7.3 seconds remaining on the 20-second timer in 2023. So obviously, if they were throwing it at an average of 13 seconds between pitch, the eight moving it down to 18 doesn't really make a difference. It just shaves off a little bit at the end. I think actually more so what they're trying to do is avoid that 7.3 being lowered to say 5 seconds in 2024 because pitchers, I think, are going to be well, not I think pitchers are going to be more comfortable with the pitch clock next year. I think they might be more willing to even test the limits a little bit, go a little bit further. And with runners on, you're playing that cat and mouse game. So you're trying to deliver it at a time when there's still time on the clock because otherwise the runners can get a much better jump, but also there's the waiting because you don't want to deliver at the same pace every time. So it's kind of this constant battle. And to me, it would have been better if they left it at 20. I don't think moving it to 18 makes much of a difference. But I think more than anything, it's not that they're trying to speed up the game more necessarily. They're just trying to keep the pace that they had in 2023 because I think that they're anticipating pitchers might take a little bit longer than 13 seconds on average to deliver a pitch with runners on in 2024 as they become more comfortable with the pitch clock.
I almost wonder if it's in a way like a preventative measure from like like let's fine tune it so we can prevent any kind of mastery of it. Because I mean, there was points. I want to point to Max Scherzer in saying
Hmm.
he kind of fudged around with the rules with the engagement and that kind of thing, and was kind of studying it to be the best to take advantage of when he could throw the pitch to throw the batter off and that kind of thing. So I'm sure that they're trying to prevent those types of situations from happening going forward.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it'll really make that much of a difference. I do think it's a little bit unnecessary. Like, is that going to make much of a difference? No. But I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. So I don't feel super strongly about it one way or another.
Now, mound visits, 5-4. I mean, nobody ever got called for mound visits. I don't. That's not even worth any kind of time on it.
Yeah. Yeah. In the playoffs, they use mound visits a lot more, but I think usually you get one in the playoffs. They might even give you one more mound visit than they do in the regular season. So
Right.
either way, that's something that, I mean, the coaches could take into consideration for important games. As a fan, it doesn't really make a difference. I don't really think there's a reason to do that. If there were only 2.3 mound visits per game and 98% of games would not have been affected by this new rule, then why even have it? That's kind of my thought on it. But again, same thing with the last one. I don't think that'll really make much of a difference. So if they want to do it, okay.
Well, and yeah, exactly. Like, I was just going to the next thing here. I just these tweaks kind of seem a little weird and off in a way, but the pitchers one, the next one on this list here is, I think, kind of an interesting one because never in the game before have you have you warmed a pitcher up in the bullpen. I personally, I don't think that should even matter.
I think this is only if you bring the pitcher out to the mound.
Oh, okay. So either way, they have to face a batter. I get you. Maybe I read it wrong.
So I think what this is trying to eliminate is when it said it only happened 24 times last year. I think what it is where a pinch hitter, if you have a pitcher that pitched the previous inning, at least 3 batters, goes back out for another inning, and then a pinch hitter is announced, you can take the pitcher out before he throws to a hitter. I think that's the only thing that's like the only play that's affected by this rule, because I'm almost positive there was already a rule in place that you couldn't take the pitcher out without having him face a batter if there was no pinch hitter that was
Wait,
announced.
Miley rule.
So I think, and if it only happened 24 times, I'm guessing it's the pinch hitter rule that's affected by it only,
Yeah.
like when the pinch hitter is announced.
The next one's the runner's lane. The runner's lane towards first base will now include the space between the foul line and the infield grass that adds 18 to 24 inches to the lane. Just allows them to take a more direct path to the base. I mean, that sounds safety to me.
This one I actually like a lot because it only happens a few times a year. But yeah, because when it's a close play, technically the runner's lane is that line between the lane between the foul line and then that little half line
Mhm.
uh, that's to the right of the foul line. But the base is on the inside part of the field. So you technically, if you're the runner, you have to run. If the throw is coming from the catcher, coming from behind the runner, then the runner technically has to stay in that lane, and he can't venture into the inside part of it until he would then touch the base. But the base is facing the inside of the field. So that always created weird scenarios. If there were close plays like that, I know Trey Turner was one of them that I think at least once, if not maybe twice, was called out for an interference because he went onto the inside part of the bag or inside part of the line. So this
Mhm.
one actually, like, even though it really only happens maybe 5 times a year, I actually think that this was long overdue. I don't really know why they refused to do this earlier. And so even though we won't really see this having an effect on day-to-day baseball, I think for the few times that it does come into effect, it is a good change.
Right, right. Makes sense to me. I mean, even just those couple times makes a difference. So I think that pretty much sums up everything with the rules, right?
Yeah, I mean, far less than last year. Last year, there were so many new
Oh
rules.
gosh, last
Yeah.
year it was like a whole 2 hour,
Yeah.
5 different conversations about the darn rules. One of the big things I think I wanted to pick your brain about before we wrap this up. This will be our last topic. David Gold will come back because David Gold loves to be a guest on my show. I don't know. He likes me or something. Is what it is, right?
Mhm.
Thanks, David. Go follow him at the Barrel MKE on Twitter, the Barrel Banter podcast. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. The Barrel Banter podcast. They just recently did some rankings. And when Peter and David start doing rankings on episodes, we're in the good part of the off season where there's extra space and they're coming up with random things. Ranking number 7s was one of my favorite segments in recent history. Also, there was a conversation with Mike Guerrero, and that's a random thing my podcast does. It just randomly pops a little bubble next to my face. See, if I put my thumb up. What was the other one? Help me out. Oh, Rotino. You had Rotino, and that was a good one too. So, keep doing what you're doing over there, David. It's excellent. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes, and I want to hear the hard truth of what you actually think on this. Last year we talked. I think it was towards the end of the season, or we were chatting, one of the two, and you said that you feel Corbin Burnes is going to be traded. Actually, I think you said it almost mid-season, if I'm correct. Where do you feel it's going to go at this juncture? Do you feel they're going to hold on to him? Do you feel like we're going to play it until the middle of the season, or what do you think their mode is?
I'm definitely less certain about that prediction now than I was last year. Just it feels like the more and more reports that come out, the less likely it is that he's traded. I do still think that there's a reasonably good chance he's traded, but I think so. I didn't expect him to be traded at this point in the offseason. I've been expecting this whole time that he for sure wouldn't go until Yamamoto and Blake Snell signed, and Snell still hasn't signed. But now, at least Nightingale, if you want to trust Bob Nightingale, he's saying that Blake Snell might not even sign until spring training, possibly when teams sense urgency that they're lacking starting pitching. So if that's the case, if the Brewers wait all the way until then I don't really think Burnes is going to get traded. Now, if they're in contention, I really don't think the Brewers are going to make that same mistake again, trading Burnes like they did with Hader. So I don't think, so I don't think that Burnes gets traded in midseason if they're in contention. I think it's maybe now I would say it's maybe 2/3 chance that they hold on to him this offseason. As we're later, we're not really hearing many rumors about it other than here and there. This team is interested. This team has checked in on him. But I would say that if the Brewers are, say, 500 or lower, then I think there's a very high likelihood they trade him at midseason.
Yeah, and that was kind of what I had theorized, just because with the lot, and I think the loss of Brandon Woodruff really had a lot to do with it. I think you could have afforded it better had Brandon Woodruff not had the injury, then had to be released and let go and untendered. I think you could have afforded to trade Burnes and still somewhat competed, Willie Adames is the next on my question block for you. What's your thoughts on where Willie is right now and what's going to happen? Could he improve? Do you think he's going to be good enough to improve himself this season to get traded if that eventual trade? Obviously, we're talking about, like, this is a very specific window of from the first game to the middle of the season. Can he get better and good enough to be worth something on a trade?
I do think even right now he's worth something on a trade, because this past year was his worst year offensively over the past 3 or 4 years. And he's improved as a defender pretty much every year. So he's got that going for him. He's got value in that regard. So I think he's kind of like Burnes, I would say. If there's maybe a 1/3 chance he's traded, 2/3 chance that he's still with the Brewers on opening day. I think if the Brewers get overwhelmed by an offer, get a very good offer for him this offseason, they'll trade him. I think they're okay doing that. And I do think that there's a good chance that he ends up having a better year offensively this year. Now, I definitely, if I'm the Brewers, I'm not eager to move him, but I would be willing to move him. And I think same thing with Burnes. If the Brewers are, say, 500 or less, then we very well likely could see Adames moved at the deadline. But if they're in contention, I'd be very surprised if they traded him, especially because in the clubhouse, Adames is kind of the heart and soul of the team. He's always got energy. He seems to always have players around him, connects really well with a lot of the players in the clubhouse. So I'd be shocked to see them trade him if they are in contention. And I think they even in this offseason will think twice about trading him, partly for that reason.
All right, next up, do you have any dreams of any Brewers reunions with any of the Brewers, former Brewers that are free agents, i.e., the Zach Greinke's, the Josh Haders, the Brent Suter is actually garnering, I don't know if you read that, but he's garnering, I think 8 teams are interested in him, and some of them want to use him as a starter.
Yeah, I mean Josh Hader would be nice, but I don't see the Brewers pitching in the money, pushing the money at Hader to sign him. To be honest, I mean, like a Zach Greinke would be fine. He's really not that good anymore. He just kind of eats some innings, which the Brewers do need some of that right now. I wouldn't really be a fan of signing Brent Suter because I feel like the Brewers bullpen is already not very flexible. The Brewers acquired Taylor Clark, who's out of options. I'm forgetting who it was. There's at least one other reliever we've acquired this offseason who's also out of options, but the rotation depth is a little bit thin. So if they're going to get someone, I don't really see Brent Suter being someone you would want to sign to move back into the rotation if you're a contending team. Greinke, I guess, kind of similar. At least in that case, it could maybe push Colin Ray into more of a swingman role that he's better suited for.
Mm-hmm.
Like Suter as a starter, I don't know if he's even better than Colin Ray. So none of those ones. I think if the Brewers do want to compete in 2024, which I think they're going to, I think they're looking to, and they have a good enough team that there's a decent chance they could compete. Then I would be a fan of them bringing back Carlos Santana if it's on a small deal. I wouldn't want to pay him more than $3 to $5 million for 1 year, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it would be worth it. Right now, they just have Jake Bowers at first, assuming they have Tyler Black play mostly third base. So there's kind of an opening there at first base where they could bring back Santana, nice veteran presence. He takes his walks. I think the power numbers might go down a little bit. He's going to be entering his age 38 season. So he probably will see a little bit of a decline, but I think it would still be worth it if it's a low cost move. And not going to turn any heads, kind of a typical Brewers move, but I think it
Mm-hmm.
would make sense.
Brewers being Brewers.
Mm-hmm.
Final thoughts. This is where I'm gonna wrap it up because this is kind of one that I've been all over the board. I'm excited in a way that we spent the money to lock up Jackson Churio. I think it could have waited a year. Personally, I think he should have got some AAA time because now it almost is like an assumed thought that he's going to make that opening day roster. What are your thoughts on the fact that the guy has played 6 games at the AAA level, and now with the way that they extended his contract, might end up with a call up on opening day? Do you
Of
think he's
course,
going to be in the opening day roster? I guess.
I think he will be. It's a big risk. Now, I think I do actually still think that there's a good chance that they trade either Mitchell or Weimer
Okay.
before the season starts. Um, so I think that would impact what they do with Churio. But I do think he makes the opening day roster. I do like the move. It's a gamble, of course. $82 million to someone who's got 6 games in AAA, no major league experience. He was born in 2004. So there are all kinds of reasons to be concerned or to consider it a big risk, and it is. But also, if you're the Brewers, you have to take a risk like this. If they were to wait even 1 year, let's say Churio spends 2 years, or excuse me, 2 months in AAA, and then 4 months in the big leagues, and let's just say he's an average hitter, good defense and center, good speed. I think that even might double his value just to show that he can play at the major league level. He's 20 years old and he's already an average hitter. He's already got great speed, great defense, and so that's why the Brewers did it now, because they know that they're taking on that additional risk, and it's significant risk because he hasn't had any major league experience, but also they know that the price tag would be significantly higher if they waited. So personally, I do think that they should start him on the opening day roster. I'm not saying if he struggles a lot, you don't send him back to AAA. I think he'll figure it out at the major league level without needing to do that. And I don't think they're going to be putting him on that shuttle. I hope they don't do that where they keep moving him back and forth.
Oh
Uh,
no.
but I, but I think he should be on the opening day roster. It is a big risk, but I think that the contract will pay off for the Brewers because $82 million is not superstar money. It's a good chunk, but But it's something that, like, even if he turns into a borderline all-star, that's still definitely worth it for the Brewers. So
Mm-hmm.
to be able to have that stability, you have that locked in, and also because they're always concerned about money, then in this case they can know how much that they're going to be paying Churio, and they can kind of build around him. And I think that it just creates a lot of stability for the future. That it's a medium, I'd say it's a medium risk, high reward contract.
I would agree with that. I think you kind of have that analytical brain, and you made me think about it in a different way. Just the way you said things, because a lot of people are yeah, and I'm like, I don't know, but that is David Go, man. Thank you. I always appreciate when you come on because you just have that brain and you just have that ability to like zero in. You're such a baseball guy. You're probably I'm gonna say what you said before. You're one of the biggest baseball guys I know. Um, and I always appreciate you. So thank you again, man, for making the time tonight. We'll get back to doing another episode, maybe more season preview stuff um, in the coming months here once we have more of an idea of roster and stuff like that. And we'll get back together.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Eric.
No, I appreciate you, man. Go check out David Go and his brother Peter, the Barrel Banter, Barrel MKE on Twitter.
Mhm.
Yes. And Substack. You still got the Substack rocking, or
Yeah, not really using it right now.
gotcha?
You can
And
go over. We have a little bit of stuff on YouTube at the Barrel MKE also.
check them out everywhere, guys. All right. Well, this has been the Miller Park Man, guys. Throwing strikes, getting likes, hitting dingers, getting listeners. Find us on your favorite podcast platforms. We upload every morning at 5:30 a.m. for your commute, for you to listen to all day, every day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your day.